The Lord could come at any moment, and no prophecy in the Bible must be fulfilled before the event commonly called the rapture. I don't believe in setting dates for the coming of the Lord to summons believers up in the clouds, an awesome event commonly called the rapture. Jesus said no man knows the day or the hour. He also is coming when people don't really expect him. Jesus says he's coming when the world is not watching or expecting him, as in the days of Noah before the flood, when everything was just business as usual. There are compelling arguments in favor of the Lord's return in the clouds during the Levitical fall feasts, specifically the Feast of Trumpets. But some Bible teachers argue for Pentecost, or in Hebrew, Shavuot. The important thing is just be ready to go at any time. Don't have any sin in your life, because we're living in the time that the Bible calls the birth pangs of Messiah, increasing calamities. When he comes, we want to be ready to face Jesus without any condemnation. Now, before we go any further, let's answer the question, what's the rapture of the church? The rapture is the doctrine of the imminent return of the Lord in the atmosphere to resurrect the saints of the church age, and also to catch away those of us who are alive, who are living and watching for his return. Let's look at 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 17, where Paul says that we who are alive and remain will be caught up. Raptured is the word taken from the Latin Bible. Will be caught up to meet the Lord in the air and will forever be with the Lord. Don't be deceived by teachers who say the rapture is a doctrine that was formulated only in the past century by evangelists and obscure personalities. Don't be deceived. The concept of the rapture has always been in the Bible. It was foreshadowed with Old Testament types, such as Enoch and Elijah, who were translated alive to heaven. And clearly, the rapture is a mystery that Paul said was revealed to him, and it's a New Testament doctrine in 1 Thessalonians 4:17, and also in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. When I was growing up, men in the church still held a reverence for the doctrine of the imminent return of the Lord, meaning he could come at any moment. But it's interesting that the closer that we get to the event of the second coming, the more it's ridiculed. Furthermore, Jesus himself told a parable called the parable of the faithful and unfaithful servants. He said that the unfaithful servant decides that the return of his master is delayed. And please note that because of this fateful decision to believe that the Lord's return is delayed, Jesus said the unfaithful servant is evil. You see, the unfaithful servant begins to get involved in this world, smiting his fellow servants, and even becomes intoxicated because he's not watching and waiting. Many evangelicals who used to believe in the imminent return of Jesus are now clinging so much to the love of this world that they're saying the Lord's return is delayed. You see, they are intoxicated with sleep. I mean, they're spiritually asleep, and that's very troubling. Well, you may ask, is the word rapture found in the Bible? Well, yes, if you look at the Latin Vulgate Bible translated by St. Jerome, you see the Vulgate Bible was the main Bible in the medieval Western Church until the Reformation. And the Vulgate is still the primary Latin translation of the Roman Catholic Church. In 1 Thessalonians 4:17, Jerome's Vulgate translated the Greek verb harpaz, used by the Apostle Paul, meaning to be caught up, into the Latin rapio, which is usually translated with the phrase caught up, meaning we'll be caught up into the clouds when the Lord comes. According to the Greek lexicon, harpaz means to snatch, to seize, to take suddenly and vehemently. This is the same meaning of the Latin word rapio, to seize, to snatch, to tear away. So it shouldn't be surprising to anyone that a very recognizable English word, rapture, was developed from the Latin to describe what the New Testament called being torn away from this world in an instant when the Lord ascends. Let's hear what the Apostle Paul said in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 51 to 52. Listen, Paul said, I'm going to tell you a mystery. We will not all die, but we will all be changed in a flash, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. For the Lord himself is going to descend and call us out of this world. Paul clearly taught that there will be a generation that will never die, and that if we are alive, when the Lord descends to summons his bride with a great trumpet blast, we'll be instantly changed. We'll be raptured alive. That means we'll never experience physical death. The last enemy, death, truly will be swallowed up in victory for those who are alive when the Lord comes and who are translated in the twinkling of an eye. Overcomers will conquer the grave with resurrection power, quite literally. Jesus will appear to those who are watching for him. Those who cherish this, what the Bible calls blessed hope, will purify ourselves and prepare ourselves, just as a bride carefully beautifies her body and carefully adorns herself to please her bridegroom. The Apostle John said in 1 John 3, verse 3, that when the Lord appears, we'll be like him, for we'll see him as he is. And everyone who has this hope purifies himself. In other words, if we have that hope, we're going to make ourselves ready, and we won't have any sin in our lives. Well, it's definitely going to take the gift of faith to be raptured alive. Sadly, many will be left behind because they're not ready, and they haven't been watching, and so they haven't been preparing. And some will miss the rapture, even because perhaps of premature death. That's another reason why we should press into God for divine health. Don't let the devil take you out early. Well, I hope that this teaching has been helpful on a subject that has sadly become increasingly controversial. But it is a subject in the Bible. Have a good day and keep watching and praying.